we're looking at continuing to develop the organization over 2 years and 5 years and 10 years. And for this, maybe the learnings and the toughness we had to feel this year can be beneficial.
Now, one of the most interesting things to do in the off-season is to watch out for car teasers for 2023. And we haven't been disappointed on this field so far. After Ferrari's leak about the engine improvement, Mercedes came with their own sneak peek and posted a video on social media about the 2023 version of their car. Their team is the one that needs to improve the most compared to the previous season, and rest assured they've already been working on the case to put out the most dominant car on the grid. Mercedes has had their fair share of struggles in 2022, and it goes without saying that it's a season they're going to want to forget as soon as possible. They were able to notch one win only in Brazil in a dominant manner, if we must add, with Hamilton finishing second. However, apart from that, they've been able to finish second and third on the podium in Budapest and in France, with Hamilton notching the first winless season of his career in 2022. So that's one reason why he would be more than motivated to come back stronger in 2023, apart from being beaten by his teammate for the third time in his racing career, apart from 2011 and 2016. Russell doesn't seem to slow down, and his first season with Mercedes was a complete success. The young Brit was able to absolutely smash his teammate in the first half of the season, and in the second half he was able to keep the advantage and finish ahead of the 7-time world champion. While Wolff added that it was irrelevant who would finish ahead, Russell or Hamilton, it's evident that tension will be present between these two when the championship challenge is presented to them. It could be as early as 2023, with Mercedes already showing some advantages for the upcoming season. The car they've revealed in the latest video was just a model, and right from the top, we were able to notice that the roll hoop has been changed. This is something that has followed after Joe's crash in Silverstone, and Mercedes are now enhancing the safety of their car, something that all the other teams are going to try as well. Apart from that, Mercedes is likely to introduce some changes to the philosophy of the car, something that was mentioned earlier this season by Wolff. The Austrian said that while the car is going to keep almost its entire body shell the same way they did it in 2023, there are some major changes coming when it comes to how it will run in the first place. And even with this, Wolff isn't certain where his team will find itself in the 2023 season, mostly because they were way off in 2022. So let's take a short trip down memory lane and see what Wolff had to say regarding the 2023 car and the philosophy change that the Brackley-based team is going to take. He compared his team to an oil tanker, adding that turning this ship into an industry would be a hard thing to accomplish. To turn the ship in this industry is a little bit like an oil tanker. First, you have to understand what the root cause is for your non-performance, and then you have to peel the skin. What is the first layer? What is the second layer? Are we really on top of all the questions? The answer is no, we're not. But I think a big chunk of the performance that we're missing, we've discovered. It's not something we can change this year, it's decisions that we have made for next year. But I'm not 100% confident to say here that next year we'll be fighting for world championships. Obviously, the narrative has changed from there, and Mercedes has won a race and even come close to winning second place in the Constructors' Championship. After the season they had, it was a very interesting turn of events, with Ferrari actually having to defend their P2 position in both championships. Nevertheless, the Mercedes drivers are now happy with how the 2023 car has been progressing so far, and that's been shared by both of them. Russell and Hamilton also stated that team morale has never been higher, and the team is eager to get back on track. After a troublesome 2022 season, this is going to be much easier said than done, but if there is one team that can turn things around for the following season, that has to be Mercedes. And there is one thing that goes heavily in their favour, which quite paradoxically is them finishing third in the Constructors' Championship. No matter what kind of car Mercedes produces for 2023, they'll stick with the no-pod side-pod design, and if they want to make it work this time, they will need more time in the wind tunnels and CFD in order to understand the aerodynamic oscillations that have caused so many problems for them in the 2022 season. With that being said, Mercedes finishing third is actually a blessing in disguise because they're going to receive more wind tunnel time compared to Ferrari and Red Bull. As the third team in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes will gain 80% of wind tunnel time, gaining 15% more compared to the 2021 season. They lost 2 positions in the Constructors' Championship compared to last season, and while Red Bull is going to have 202 runs and Ferrari is going to have 240 runs, Mercedes are allowed to have 256 runs. This is much more compared to Red Bull, who were originally supposed to have 224 runs, but due to the sporting penalty for the budget cap breach, they're going to be limited to 202. In addition, new regulations, such as increased ride height and diffuser throws, will be implemented for the 2023 season. If that's a bit unclear to you, let us explain why Mercedes is going to gain a lot from these regulations. They were the first team to lobby to the FIA when it comes to changing the regulations in order to have less porpoising in the 2022 season. One of the obvious solutions for the porpoising was to lift the ride height, but if Mercedes did that, they would have lost a huge amount of downforce and gain a massive amount of drag. Hamilton was already complaining that the W13 was a car that felt like driving with an open parachute behind his back. This wasn't applicable to any extent, so that is why the increased ride height and diffuser throats for every constructor in 2023 are going to benefit Mercedes the most because they won't suffer from porpoising and the field will be leveled yet again. Mercedes has proven to have the most reliable engine compared to Ferrari and Red Bull, and that's why they can bet heavily on the new regulations as well as the increased time in the wind tunnels and CFD in order to build the perfect car for the 2023 season. Now, there's something else that Mercedes needs to address more properly: the relationship between their drivers, because it seems like recently Russell has bashed Hamilton for lying yet again for Mercedes. The 7-time world champion has said that multiple times that he's been the guinea pig in the 2022 season, especially in the first season, mostly because he's driven the car that has been experimented with the most in order for the team to find the perfect setup for the future. While everybody was led to believe this was the truth, Russell has denied all of these accusations by Hamilton, who also added that he hopes this role will be taken by Russell down the road in the 2022 season. When talking about this matter, Russell added, "No, that's not the case. Whenever there were test items brought to the track, it was shared evenly across us both. I think what he probably means is that he was a bit more extravagant with setup items. Whenever there was a development that came to the car, it would always be split evenly. One week it would be me, one week it would be him." But it goes without saying that Russell respects Hamilton a lot, and while the guinea pig talks aren't really constructive ones, according to the young Brit, he added that he stole a couple of Hamilton's habits in order to become better in Mercedes. For sure, being teammates with Lewis is such an amazing position to be in because he's obviously the greatest driver of all time, and there's a huge amount I've learned from him in the sense of probably more off track, to be honest, with how he conducts himself with the engineers and goes about his business. But equally, small details on track that have been really impressive for me to see. But if you want to be a Formula 1 world champion, you've got to beat the best and you've got to beat everyone. And what a position I'm in to have Lewis as my benchmark. So, what do you think about the ongoing situation at Mercedes and their development of the 2023 car? Let us know in the comments below.